I want to introduce you to a weapon that I think is basically one of the most unique and underrated weapons in the game that has the potential to do something pretty much no other weapon can do: crowd control. I'm speaking of the SG-8 Punisher shotgun. This weapon was affected by the recent patch that nerfed the breaker and the railgun, but instead of being nerfed, it was buffed. And let me just tell you, the changes were significant. And so even if you've previously tried it and hated it, now you might just love it. So let's get into it and talk about what makes the Punisher shotgun the best crowd control weapon in Helldivers 2. Okay, so just quickly, what exactly changed in the recent patch? Well, 3 significant changes were made. The 2 I immediately noticed were the ammo capacity from 40 to 60, which is a huge 50% increase, and the damage per bullet from 40 to 45, which means 360 to 405 damage per round. And just a side note that this damage increase means that the Punisher is now by far the most powerful gun in the game per shot, dealing 405 versus the breaker in second place at 330. However, the third and final change, increased stagger force, I actually think this is the most significant because it opens the door to using this weapon as a crowd control tool. What do I even mean by crowd control, I hear you probably not ask? Well, as you can see, here we have a huge crowd of bugs. Pretty common sight, I know. Now, with a normal primary weapon, we would just shoot at each one to kill them all, probably focusing on the nearest one first so they can't reach us, blah blah blah, shoot enemies to kill them. And actually, most of the time, if faced with a large group like this, we'd rather rely on a stratagem weapon or an airstrike to nuke them all. But with the Punisher, we can use a totally different strategy. Rather than focus on actually DPSing these bugs to kill them, we can instead control them. A single shot to each bug pushes them away from us. Then we can keep retreating as we fire shots to any bug that gets too close. There it is, crowd control. So of course there are other weapons in the game that have a stagger effect that we can use for a little bit of crowd control. One example would be the Liberator Concussive, previously Liberator Explosive. However, firstly, due to the single bullet nature of this weapon, it can be really hard to actually land shots on unarmored parts of some units to actually get the stagger. And due to the comparatively low damage output on the Liberator, this stagger effect is really all you're getting here. Whereas with the Punisher, these boys are getting staggered and absolutely wrecked. Before we get into the next section, a huge shout out to ExpressVPN. If you've ever wanted to play games in a different region or browse the web securely, ExpressVPN is how you do it. I can tell you from experience it 100% works, and honestly, the ping's actually decent too. And right now, every single Mogz viewer is gonna get a huge discount of 3 months off all 12-month subscriptions, meaning it just got a whole lot cheaper for you to jump into a different region and destroy your opponents over there. How good is that? So go check out ExpressVPN via the link on screen and in the video description. Okay, so the Punisher has a stagger effect, great, but how do we actually use this effectively in-game? Well, there are 3 main ways that I like to use it. The first one is to use it as a general crowd control tool. If we're playing solo, one of my personal favorite ways to use it is to pair it with the incendiary grenades or napalm airstrikes in what I call my Punisher fire build. Basically, what you want to do is throw down a carpet of fire, then as the enemies start escaping from the flames, use your Punisher to push them back into it. This is not only incredibly cruel, but it's also really effective and, let's be honest, fun. And if we're playing with a teammate, we can use the Punisher to control the groups of enemies, whilst our teammate uses a high DPS weapon like the machine gun to obliterate everything in sight. Another extremely important aspect of crowd control is to reduce the impact of ranged enemies like these bile spewers, and luckily the Punisher also has a trick up its sleeve for dealing with them. As you can see, this bile spewer is about to spew on me. Now, usually my solution for dealing with this would be to run or dive for my damn life to get out of the way of the spew. And this is a decent solution if we're only dealing with a lone spewer, but if we're facing multiple spewers and or some other enemies, diving face down into the dirt may not be an ideal strategy. Enter the Punisher. So the spewer is starting his attack animation. Nope, denied. As you can see, just a single shot from the Punisher is all it takes to interrupt his attack and cause him to lumber on towards us rather than spewing his vile bile at us. And if facing multiple spewers chasing you around like this, honestly, you could just do this all day. Kite them around while shooting at each one that starts spewing at you, and they can just never hit you. This interrupting effect is also great against units like the Stalker to stop them jumping and one-shotting you, or on the Devastator to stop them firing their rockets. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work against more heavily armored units like the Charger, but yeah, there's other ways of dealing with them. And the third and final part of crowd control that the Punisher's really good at has got to be these annoying alarm calls. The way the Punisher handles these really well is by using that stagger effect to interrupt the alarm call on even armored units. It's true that unfortunately a direct shot to the armored part won't interrupt the call, however in most cases due to the decent sized spread on the Punisher's shot, even if you simply spray at groups of armored units, you'll usually hit at least some soft tissue with each shot and will therefore get the interrupt. And that's it guys, that's my video about the incredible crowd control effect of the Punisher. I really hope this video was helpful to change some minds about the Punisher, maybe get some of you to try it out again if you previously dismissed it. I was personally in that camp of people who tried the Punisher in the past and I absolutely hated it, but now that it has this increased stagger effect, I think it's a totally changed weapon. And I honestly think that any team would benefit from at least one player having the Punisher, just for that amazing crowd control effect. But what do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you, so let me know all your thoughts down below. And as usual guys, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.
Come on!